तव कथामृतम् तप्तजीवनम् कविभिरीडितम् कल्मषापहम् श्रवणमङ्गलम् श्रीमदाततम् भुवि गृह्णन्ति ये भूरिदा जनाः भुवि गृह्णन्ति ये भूरिदा जनाः।
ॐ तव कथामृतं तप्तजीवनं कविभिरीडितं कल्मषापहं श्रवणमङ्गलं श्रीमदाततं भुवि गृह्णन्ति ये भूरिदा जना. We are studying the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, and we are within the conversations of December 16, Sunday, 1883, and actually the topic has started. Now we are having a junction point, but the basic topic has started from at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Mr. Mukherjee, a relative of Ramakrishna, arrived in the company of a Brahmin well versed in the scriptures. And this Mr. Mukherjee is asking questions. And his first question is, sir, what is the difference between worldly and otherworldly things? So Thakur is telling that while striving for the realization of God, the aspirant has to practice renunciation, applying the logic of neti neti, not this, not this. But after attaining the vision of God, he realizes that God alone has become all things. So this is otherworldliness. And he tells story of Rama and Vasishtha. So there also, after the realization, Vasishtha telling Rama that everything is Brahman. And Thakur is exemplifying by telling that butter and buttermilk are from the same substance. And what Brahman is cannot be described in words. Everything has been polluted, but not Brahman. But the knowledge of Brahman cannot be realized if the aspirant is worldly minded. So he brings that word again here. Even in the slightest degree. So all is Brahman is possible only when there is no worldly minded in the slightest degree. And so the worldly minded he defines as being attracted. He succeeds in acquiring this knowledge only when his mind is totally free from human and gold. So the sense of enjoyment of enjoyable objects and enjoyment of the means of enjoyment, that is the worldliness. And then he told that Parvati's story. We read that on Saturday last, that the mind of a grihastha ordinarily has the subject-object mode, and the mind of the sannyasi is not divided like that. And so the mind nature has to be changed to attain the nirvikalpa samadhi. Now he is telling that the fundamental is to think of God. So you are rich and still you call on God. That is very good indeed. It is said in the Gita that those who fall from the path of yoga are born in their next birth as devotees of God in rich families. So he says this applies to you. God, if he so desires, can keep a gnani in the world also. The world and all living beings have been created by his will, but he is self-willed. But that means self-will, you cannot challenge his will. And according to his will, the world is created. So he is the transcendent reality as well as creator of the world. Now, in an ordinary man's mind, a difficulty arises. Can God have will or desire? We feel that because we have will and desire, we are imperfect. So can this imperfection be loaded on God? But the reply is that there is no harm in God having the will, but his will and our will are diagonally opposite. We require so many things for fulfillment of our will, and sometimes it may be fulfilled, sometimes it may not be. But God's will is supreme. What he wills happens immediately, without the intervening of any material or without the intervening of any instrument. That is the big difference. So Thakur says, what's wrong in that? This is an important statement for the students of Vedanta. Shankara has also replied in this way. Water is water, whether it is still or in waves. The snake is a snake, whether it is coiled up motionless or wriggles along. A man is the same man, whether sitting still or engaged in action. So, the reality which is transcendent is the same reality which is the creator. There is no harm in God having a will to create, and he creates. He is not imperfect. He does not need to create. He is self-willed. So he wills to create and he creates. How can you eliminate from the reality the universe and its living beings? So reality is transcendent and immanent. Reality is beyond everything and pervades everything. Reality is beyond everything and itself has taken the form of everything. If you do that, it will lack its full weight. Bell fruit, we say this crust is not bell, the seeds are not bell, the pulp is the bell. That is the real nature. But if somebody asks what is the weight of the bell, the whole thing will have to be considered. That means transcendent and creator God. Then only the definition of God becomes complete. The very definition, after filtering all Upanishads and finding their essence in the Brahma Sutras, is Janmadi Asya Yataha. God is the cause of all this birth, sthiti, and dissolution of this universe. So that is the only thing they have found. And so one should never forget. You may call this illusion, delusion, or whatever you like, or you may call all the objects unreal, but never forget that these unreal objects are created by God. God is the creator of these unreal objects, not I, you, or he, she, it, which is a wrong conception, a Buddhistic idea foisted upon Vedanta wrongly. That is a great difference. Thakur's statements are so precise and correct. Brahman is unattached because it is beyond. One finds good and bad smells in the air, but the air itself is untainted. And this is called the power of Brahman to appear as this world without change in himself or itself. So that is called Shakti. Brahman and Shakti are identical. It is the primordial power that has become the world and all living beings. So now the next question. If that is the nature of the truth, Mukherjee asked, why does one deviate from the path of yoga? So Thakur told Mukherjee that you are like a yoga bhrashta purush. So he asked the question, why at all this yoga bhrashtata comes? Master, as the saying goes, in my mother's womb I was in a state of yoga. Coming into the world I have eaten its clay. The midwife has cut one shackle, the navel cord, but how shall I cut the shackle of Maya? So the moment I find myself in the world is due to yoga bhrashtata. The question is why? Maya is nothing but woman and gold. A man attains yoga when he has freed his mind from these two. The self, the supreme self, is the magnet. The individual self is the needle, and it is continuously attracting. But there is the impurity of woman and gold, and so it does not feel the attraction. How can one remove it? Weep for God. So he comes to that point. Earnest feeling for God will make us weep. Weep for God with a longing heart, not mechanically. Tears shed for Him will wash away the clay on the needle. When you have thus freed yourself from impurity, you will be attracted by the magnet. Only then you will attain yoga. So Mukherjee has liked it. Says priceless words. Up to this we had read. We got, by reading this, we got the connection. Now, because this weeping has been answered to all the questions up till now, and Mukherjee has accepted that, so Thakur proceeds in that. Master, if a man is able to weep for God, he will see him straight. He will go into samadhi. So see him is just not seeing an object. Going into samadhi means he will lose his eye in God. Perfection in yoga is samadhi. A man achieves kumaka without any yogic exercise. Restraining of breath happens automatically when I is merged in God. If he but wish for God, the next stage is samadhi. So weeping for God will remove all the duality, and next stage is samadhi. Now up to this is the same continuation. Now Thakur is telling something more or different. There is another method, that of meditation. So up till now we had not brought that meditation at all, only yearning. And he is now talking of the tantric or yogic way. For that he has said another way. This was Jnana and Bhakti together. Jnana and Bhakti together, the way he described. Now there is another way called the Tantra way or the Yoga way. In the Sahasrara, Shiva manifests himself in a special manner. So there we have to imagine they are real. in the subtle form, there are 6 plexuses, wheels, or lotuses. And when the coiled power crosses all of them and reaches the 7th chakra or lotus where Paramatma is living and they merge in each other, then that is Samadhi. Shiva manifests himself in a special manner. Special manner because Shiva is everywhere. But to realize him, he manifests there. The aspirant should meditate on him. The body is like a tray. The mind and buddhi are like water. The sun of Satchidananda is reflected in this water. Meditating on the reflected sun, one sees the real sun through the grace of God. Aha. So in this tantric or yogic way, finally we are getting the reflection on which we are meditating. Then what happens? Grace of God. And this difference of the meditator and meditated is removed forever. That much is the grace of God. So go everywhere. Say Kathopanishad. Yemaya esha vrunute tena labhya tasya atma vrunute tanum swam. Only he realizes who yearns for it. Thakur's previous method. And the realization means the Atman reveals itself in his consciousness. So the final act is a grace of God. When God decides to manifest in man, he does it. An example Thakur gives about the bhavas, that the servant has been very dear to the master. And so the master one day calls him and says, sit near me, what you are, same I am. Servant does not claim that. The master gives him that. So this one should understand that the final solution of the whole thing is grace of God. Any literature you go, anywhere, if they know and they are talking, they will say it is like that. Whether it is Shankaracharya, whether it is Upanishads, whether it is Thakur, all this is called grace of God. So, man by self-effort reaches up to reflection. And this difference vanishes by God's grace. But the worldly man must constantly live in the company of holy men. So, another thing he brings here. Worldly man, company of holy men, constantly. Toward the end, it happens like that. As Master has come to stay with Thakur, as happened to Balram Basu in the end. So, in the end, the company of holy men becomes constantly required. It is necessary for all, even for sannyasis. Oh. So, whether you are a sannyasi or a householder, the final dissolution which comes by God's grace, for that, even the sannyasi has to keep company of sannyasis, and the grace also has to keep company with the sannyasis. A new truth we are listening from Thakur. Because the mind has to get that color which a real sannyasi has. And sannyasi in each other's company also get it. Grahastha to live in company with sannyasi, sannyasi to live in company with sannyasis, two sannyasis living in each other's company strengthen their resolve to go beyond. And householder, when he lives in the company of sannyasi, he gets that mind which realizes God really. But it is especially necessary for the householder because sannyasi himself is struggling for that. He has basically that structure of the mind. If he lives in the company of sannyasi, that becomes strengthened by each other's company. But householder has to get that, and so more essential for householder. His disease has become chronic because he has to live constantly in the midst of woman and God. So, because he has to live, he should not desire, but he has to live in the company of woman and God. So, the disease of subject-object mode of consciousness has become chronic. Wonderful analysis if we know that. Mukherjee, yes, sir, the disease has indeed become chronic because he is a householder and because he is sincere, he finds that. Master, give God the power of attorney. So, a new solution. What is that solution? Your idea that I am doing the work, I know God should be given up. God is the only doer. God is beyond doing. If you apply this idea, that is called power of attorney. God will do everything for you. You should not move at all through your ego. This ego brings the idea of the object. And so, if you can halt this ego in any way whatsoever, whether karma or bhakti or jnana or yoga or surrender, if you can, then the solution is gained. Let him do whatever he wants, no reaction, no special wants. That is the surrender of the ego or power of attorney. Be like a kitten and cry to him with a fervent heart. So this much is given to you. When you feel uncomfortable, when you feel you are not progressing enough, you just cry to him. The mother cat puts the kitten wherever she wants to. The kitten doesn't know anything. It is left sometimes on the bed and sometimes near the hearth. It knows one thing only. If it feels uncomfortable, say meow, meow. Mukherjee. Now what about the additional means employed by the sadhaka? So all rounded definitions we get every time, starting from somewhere, finishing everything, all points of spirituality, and then only it ends. Mukherjee, he says that by reading the correct books, many things are achieved. Important point, huh? He's not asking question here, he's making a statement. It is good to read sacred books like the Gita. Reply, Master, but what will you gain by mere reading? So the reading should become like Shravan, which itself induces Manan, which itself induces Nididhasan, which itself induces yearning, which itself induces Samadhi, then it is meaningful. Otherwise, mere reading by eyes, by buddhi, is not sufficient at all. Some have heard of milk, some have seen it, and there are some besides who have drunk it. God can indeed be seen. What is more, one can talk to him. So there is no subject and object. God himself becomes the subject, God himself becomes the object, and this can be directly realized. Mere reading of books will not give it. So one has to come to that state where God is face to face. That is the speciality of Thakur. The first stage is that of the beginner. So where reading is useful, that Thakur is studying. He studies and hears both, reading and Shravan. Second is the stage of the struggling aspirant. So by manan, by reflection, by concentration, by practice, he is struggling to go beyond the realm of subject and object. He prays to God, meditates on Him, and sings His name and glories. All this is the second stage. You have had dharana. Now you want to cultivate it. The third stage is that of the perfect soul. So this will lead to perfection. He has seen God, realized Him directly, and immediately in his either consciousness. Directly and immediately. Immediately does not mean time-wise here, please. Aparoksha anubhav, the experience without the subject and object split. That is called non-indirect or immediate, without any mediacy. We think mind, we see eyes, but without any mediacy, because he is our own real nature, no immediate, no mediacy is required, but the very idea of mediacy has to vanish by study and all these things, and then comes the aparoksha anubhav, where it happens in his inner consciousness. Last is the stage of the supremely perfect, like Chaitanya. Supremely perfect means he can go down, up, anywhere without any disturbing his knowledge. Such a devotee establishes a definite relationship with God. So, always he is connected with God, whether his mind is low or high. Looking on him as his son or beloved. So, in the Vaishnava, there is this Vatsalya Bhav or Madhur Bhav. He keeps one of these to have a otherworldly relation with God. It is not a ordinary worldly relation with the physical mother. No. Now all this is going on between Thakur and Mukherjee continuously. But so many people are sitting there and they are listening to that. So Master Mashe describes M. Rakhal, Yogin, Latu, and the other devotees were entranced by these words of divine realization. So the all-sided, what happens before, what happens after, how the person lives Jivan-Mukta, all this has been enthralling hearing because the mind is ready to absorb these things. They are all pure-minded, so the dharana and the subsequent results happen. So, Mr. Mukherjee's advent has done all this. Now, Mr. Mukherjee and his friend were taking leave of the master. After saluting him, they stood up. The master also stood up to show them courtesy. Courtesy means it was Sri Ramakrishna's nature. God sees God in all. So, he has equal respect for each person. There is no Guru Shishya, superior, inferior in him. That itself shows his perfection. So it is so natural in him. He gets up. Now people do this in the world out of formality. So Mukherjee says, smiling, that you should stand up or sit down. So for you, is this necessary? If you do it mechanically, if you do it like other people, So for you sitting or standing, that is the same. You have Brahma consciousness everywhere. Master smiling. But what's the harm? Yes, you do not need it. But what's the harm if it is his nature? See, everything is so clearly filtered and defined sharply. Again, the same simile which he had given about God's will. Water is water, whether it is placid or in waves. I am like a cast of leaf in the world. Wind. The wind blows that leaf wherever it lists. I am the machine and God is its operator. So it is God's will through this body that he stands up or sits down, showing God sees God in all. Mr. Mukherjee and his friend left the room, so they had no reply to this. M thought, according to the Vedanta, all is like a dream. Are all these, the ego, the universe, and the living beings, unreal then? So Mukherjee is satisfied and they go. In Master Masha's mind, which is a doubting mind, a rational mind, again this thought comes. Is it like a dream? Unreal. And I may explain that. M had studied a little of the Vedanta. He also had read the German philosophers such as Kant and Hegel, whose writings are only a faint echo of the Vedanta. Kant especially, he has proved that mind is made of deshkal nimitta and mind cannot realize anything in its reality. It only sees objects caught in the way of the mind. So, Master Masha says it is like the dream. Mind becomes the pradhana there. But Sri Ramakrishna did not arrive at his conclusion by reasoning, as do ordinary scholars, as Kant and Haber. Sri Ramakrishna knows it. It was the Divine Mother of the universe who revealed the truth to him. So, realization and intellectual appreciation difference Master Masha is showing. These were the thoughts that passed through M's mind. A little later, Sri Ramakrishna and M were conversing on the porch west of the master's room toward the Ganges. No one else was there, so he can talk his freely mind. It was a late winter afternoon. December, late afternoon, the conversation started from 4, now it is late in the afternoon. And the sun had not yet gone below the horizon. M. Is the world unreal? Master. Why should it be unreal? What we are asking is a matter for philosophical discussion. That means if you analyze, you do not find it true. Why it should be unreal? This is another thought. That in itself it may be unreal. But it is God's creation. God himself appears as this world. If you take like that, then why should you call it unreal? In the beginning, when a man reasons, following the Vedantic method of not this, he realizes that Brahman is not the living beings, not the universe, not the 24 cosmic principles. All these things become like dreams to him. So, dream point is a part of sadhana, a step of sadhana. Then comes the affirmation, illumination of what has been denied. If you read the Mandukya first and second mantra and Shankar's commentary on it, then comes the affirmation of what has been denied, and he feels that God himself has become the universe and all living beings. Then only we can say the world is not real in itself. Otherwise, a negative realism remains in the mind. Suppose you are climbing to the roof of the stairs. As long as you are aware of the roof, you are also aware of the stairs. Who is aware of the high is also aware of the low. But after reaching the roof, you realize that the stairs are made of the same material, brick, lime, and brick dust, as the roof. So the upadan is not different. Further, I have given the illustration of the bell fruit. Both changeability and unchangeability belong to one and the same reality. The ego cannot be done away with. That is the problem. As long as I consciousness exists, living beings and the universe must also exist. Don't call it dream. So long as you are feeling, this is very important, very important. I find most of the Vedantis saying the world is unreal and I am Brahma. If the world is unreal, the experience of the world, experiencer of the world is also unreal. If I is nothing but Brahman, the world also is nothing but Brahman. I found this very clearly in a passage of Shankara's commentary on the Chandogya Upanishad. There is telling that this ego itself is a semblance. Then the question arises, all this is about this semblance ego. He says, yes, if the world is unreal, the self who experiences the world is also unreal. And if I is taken as Brahman, then Sarvam Karvidam Brahman. After realizing God, one sees that it is He Himself who has become the universe and the living beings, but one cannot realize this by mere reasoning. Mere reasoning and experience are different. You must be very clear about it. Shiva has two states of mind. First, the state of samadhi, when he is transfixed in the great yoga. He is then Atma Ram, satisfied in the self. Second, the state when it descends from samadhi and keeps a trace of ego, then it dances about chanting Ram Ram. Just trace of ego, illumined ego, and then his Ishta Devata is Ram, and by the experience, he is full of bliss, so he dances. Nobody has explained Vedanta in such a clear fashion other than Ramakrishna. And that's why Swami Vivekananda had to define the mission as to live and preach the Vedanta as experienced and talked about by Sri Ramakrishna. He's not qualifying Vedanta by that. He's telling about the real Vedanta. Otherwise, intellectual awareness, only transcendent. Did the master describe Shiva to him as at his own state of mind? That is Master Macha's reflections continues. He cannot positively affirm, he reflects. He asks us, you find out. It was evening. Sri Ramakrishna was meditating on the Divine Mother and chanting her holy name. So many moods of Sri Ramakrishna never bereft of God. The devotees also went off in solitary places and meditated on their chosen ideal. Evening time. Evening worship began at the temple garden in the shrines of Kali, Radha Krishna and Shiva. It was the second day of the dark fortnight of the moon. Soon the moon rose in the sky. bathing temples, trees, flowers, and the rippling surface of the Ganges in its light. He had already told of his poetic mood. The master was sitting on the couch and M on the floor. The conversation turned to the Vedanta. Master to M. Why should the universe be unreal? He has taken that very thread again. That is a speculation of the philosophers. Speculation of the philosophers. That means so long as you reason, you find that. After realizing God, one sees that it is God Himself who has become the universe and all living beings. Very clear, transcendent, immanent reality. The Divine Mother revealed to me in the Kali temple that it was she who had become everything. She showed me that everything was full of consciousness. The image was consciousness, the altar was consciousness, the water vessels were consciousness, the door sill was consciousness, the marble floor was consciousness, all was consciousness. So he's describing their names, but they are all forms of consciousness. That is the final realization. I found everything inside the room soaked as it were in bliss. So the other aspect is bliss. If it is all consciousness, it is all bliss. The bliss of Satchidananda, not worldly bliss, but Chit and Ananda. Sat and Chit and Ananda. I saw a wicked man in front of the Kali temple. He knows from the outside world point of view that is a wicked person. But in him also, I saw the power of the Divine Mother vibrating. That was why I fed a cat with the food that was to be offered to the Divine Mother. Obliterating all difference, a cat came and he gave that cat all the food. I clearly perceived that the Divine Mother herself had become everything, even the cat. The manager of the temple garden wrote to Mathur Babu saying that I am feeding the cat with the offering intended for the Divine Mother. But Mathur Babu had insight into the state of my mind. He wrote back to the manager, let him do whatever he likes. You must not say anything to him. After realizing God, one sees all this aright, that it is He who has become the universe, living beings, and the 24 cosmic principle. Generally, this is what we talk, Chetan and Achetan, all things. Universe, all things. Chetan and Achetan. But what remains when God completely effaces the ego cannot be described in words. So this is all after coming back. Pratibodha viditam matam. The final stage of samadhi, I is not there. One is not there. Who can tell? As Ramprasad said in one of his songs, then alone will you know whether you are good or I am good. I get into even that state now and then. That is Thakur's uniqueness. A man sees a thing in one way through reasoning and in an altogether different way when God Himself shows it to him. Altogether different way. Because reasoning can never remove the Dvaita. So we pass on to the next day now. Monday, December 17, 1883. It was about 8 o'clock in the morning. Sri Ramakrishna was in his room with him when Dr. Madhu arrived and sat down beside the master on the small coach. Doctor sat on the same coach near master. He was an elderly man and full of wit. He used to visit the master when the latter felt indisposed as a doctor. The master, the whole thing in a nutshell is that one must develop ecstatic love for Satchidananda. So the essence repeated ad infinitum by Sri Ramakrishna. What kind of love? How should one love God? Gauri. Gauri is the half name. He was a Tantric and Vedantic Pandit. Gauri used to say that one must become like Sita to understand Rama. So, the love has this aspect. If you are Sita, absolutely loving God without any trace anywhere, then you understand what is Rama. Like Bhagavati, Divine Mother, to understand Bhagavan, Shiva. If you take any couple's name, and because the Vishnu aspect and Shiva aspect are different in manifestations, so two names. One must practice austerity as Bhagavati did in order to attain Shiva. One, Bhagavati is called Aparna. She stopped eating even leaves of the tree to realize God. Though she was the constant consort of him. So when the appearance is in the world, they show the model. I saw Sita in a vision, the attitude of a friend, a handmaid, or a mother. So any one of the Vaishnava Bhavas you can pick up and we will find this. He will realize the real nature of God. I saw Sita in a vision. I found that her entire mind was concentrated on Rama. She was totally indifferent to everything, her hands, her feet, her clothes, her jewels. Totally indifferent, though she was putting. Why she puts on the jewel? Because if the Lakshmi, the goddess of wealth, is bereft of jewel, the whole world will lose its glory. It seemed that Rama had filled every bit of her life and she could not remain alive without Rama. Yes, sir. She was mad with love for Rama. Master, mad? That's the word. That means not normal consciousness. That is the only word. Intoxicated. That is the only word. One must become mad with love in order to realize God. So one should not think of the society or this or that. But that love is not possible if the mind dwells on woman and God again and again, same thing. If enjoyment sense is there, it cannot be in that love. Sex life with a woman, what happiness is there in that? The realization of God gives 10 million times more happiness. 10 million word is used because in Indian language, 1 crore. So the English equivalent becomes 10 million. Gauri used to say that when a man attains ecstatic love of God, all the pores of the skin, even the roots of the hair, becomes like so many sexual organs. And in every pore, the aspirant enjoys the happiness of communion with the Atma. Beautiful statement. Remember the other side of that 24 August 1882, love body and everything like that. One must call on God with a longing heart. One must learn from the Guru how God can be realized. If the Guru himself has attained perfect knowledge, can he show the way? So if he is outside Maya, he can show you. A man gets rid of all desires when he has perfect knowledge. So the first effect of knowledge is getting rid of desire. He becomes like a child 5 years old. Next, this is from the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Scriptures come out of Sri Ramakrishna's mouth like breath. tasya nishwasitam veda. So that is Brahman himself is Sri Ramakrishna. This is in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, Yajnavalkya talking to Kahor. That first, when Brahman comes as knowledge, desires go away. Then the knowledge goes a little deeper, then child appearance is there. Balak, Balya Bhav. And sages like Dattatreya and Jadabharata had the nature of a child. We have known their stories, Dattatreya and Jadabharata. Those were known to be absolutely transcendent personalities and they had the childlike nature, mainly because they used to roam about without any cloth. One hears about them, but there were many others like them that the world doesn't hear about. So these two are the famous examples. What Master Masha wants to say, that they are not strange. People are there. And Thakur supports it. Master, yes, the Jnani gets rid of all desire. So, that is the example given. Thakur is telling. First, he has told that the Jnani is like that. If any is left, it does not hurt him. That desire is of a divine nature, it does not hurt him. At the touch of the philosopher's stone, the sword is transformed into gold. Then that sword cannot do any killing. Just so the Jnani keeps only a semblance of anger and passion. Appearance. Their anger and passion only in name and cannot injure him. They are not real. They are only appearances. Yes, sir. The Jnani goes beyond the three gunas, as you say. He is not under the control of any of the gunas, sattva, rajas, or tamas. All these three are so many robbers, as it were. Now, Thakur has seen that, Master has understood that, but he has to experience that. Thakur corrects everywhere. Master, yes, one must assimilate that. It should become an experience. Again, the light has gone out. What can I do? Should I close it and start again? It has come back. Okay. Knowledge. First himself said there are others. Master, why do you say that? So at that time he had said yes. One sees many holy men and sannyasis in the monasteries of Upper India. Upper means geographically north is shown as upper. What Thakur says, that is in the translation. Thakur's language was Paschimel Mathe. So the Bengalis talk of the UP, Bihar, etc. as Paschim. And that is UP. And so the translation is Upper India. Thakur does not say Upper India. That is our knowledge, geography represented in maps, that we call it upper. Thakur says actually direction-wise Paschim, west of Bengal. It hurt me, so I found out. M. Well, I too can become a sannyasi like one of them. That means he thinks they are sannyasis only in dress. The master fixed his gaze on him and said, by renouncing everything. Remember that sannyasi has renounced everything. M. What can a man achieve unless he gets rid of Maya? What will a man gain by merely being a sannyasi if he cannot subdue Maya? Both remained silent a few minutes. So that has produced a tussle in Master's mind and Master Maharsh's mind, and Thakur has allowed that. M. Sir, what is the nature of the divine love transcending the three gunas? This we shall take up tomorrow. Om Tava Kathāmritam Tapta Jivanam Kavivireeditam Kalmashapaham Shravanamangalam Shrimadaatatam Bhuvi Grunanti Ye Bhurida Jana. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.